Ken Davis is an Emmy Award-winning producer who has worked in some of the biggest newsrooms in the country and is now pulling the curtain back on our crazy business.
His book is called In Bed with Broadcasting, and Ken is here. Hi, how are you?
Ken, great to see you two people.
Good to see you.
In Bed with Broadcasting? Really? That's what you called your book?
Well, I had to run that by my mother. But the industry was my mistress, as it probably has been for you two.
Absolutely.
I would do just about anything for
for
her.
Yeah.
Day or night, you've got to live it 24/7 to be a success. And I want you to know you're one of my 3 favorite anchormen.
Oh, that's very nice
My
of you to
3rd
say.
favorite, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
at the bottom of the list.
You won't know.
Walter Cronkite,
Yeah.
Will Ferrell,
and Carlos Amezcua. It's a great list.
Ron Burgundy.
Right, it's a great list.
I think Walter and I would take exception to that, but actually I think it's a bit of an honor. You have an interesting story when you encountered Walter Cronkite at CBS. I mean, you were a producer at the network, and you had encountered a lot of really top-notch news people, but this is the king.
The king, the prime minister of my profession. The book is full of stories where I take the reader inside everything from dining and drinking with Walter Cronkite, to Phil Spector pointing a gun to my head, to stumbling across the body of Mae West, to breakfast with Obama, to the lovely Hillside Strangler, and much like you, there's stories, but I write it like a novel. The ups and downs, and anybody that wants to be in the broadcasting business, and even if they don't, there's full of exciting stories. The Walter case is, I was working at Television City, CBS Network's West Coast headquarters, and Walter called. He was in town covering a space shuttle landing, had just retired from the evening news. Nobody really knew why, if he had been pushed out by Dan Rather or what had really happened. He was the #1 anchorman, and suddenly he's quitting. And he needed a ride to the Beverly Hills Hotel. And I would normally assign our courier, but then suddenly a light went off in my head. This is freaking Walter Cronkite.
Yeah, I'm going to show up and drive him wherever he needs to
I'm
go.
in my pajamas. and I met him in his helicopter. I landed on top of TV City. I took him to his hotel at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he said, I want to go out to dinner, but I want to go to some place that's not fancy-dancy, where I won't necessarily be recognized, because even I like my own privacy. I didn't know where to take him, and it suddenly dawned on me I would take him to a dive called the Formosa Cafe in Hollywood.
Nice.
And the reason is the bartender and I were buddies. The bartender was like 85 years old, but from when I had worked around the corner at Channel 13. We had a wonderful evening. We discussed everything from the news business to ethics to women to politics to...
He was a character.
A character. He had a case of diarrhea when he was on live TV, and how he got through that. So that's, it's the nitty-gritty, the full story,
It happens.
This is Walter Cronkite,
Okay, so I want to talk about the news business in general,
Yes.
because news people are, I always say, we are a certain breed of people. We are often highly skeptical. We are lunatics at heart.
Without a doubt. Excitement junkies.
Right, excitement junkies who are just always turning, always thinking, always trying to consume information. So my question to you is, what do you share in this book that other people wouldn't know about the news business or don't understand about our business?
I talk about that, how we are affected, in particular, the MGM Grand Fire in Las Vegas, where 82 people died. I was breaking down crying while trying to cover this. I try to tell people we're human beings too. You meet the most fascinating people in the world, and the trick is to keep your head on straight. And I get also into the dangers of so-called fake news, and how news and democracy are closely tied together. If we don't have a free press, democracy can be in trouble. And anybody in today's world can be a journalist with their cell phones and internet and everything else. So I'm kind of pushing for maybe a code of ethics that journalists should follow, maybe even like whether people become a meteorologist or an attorney has to pass the bar exam. Maybe we can hire the bar for journalists, because this country's in danger if so-called amateurs get in charge. But you also have to keep an open mind. There's always another side to the story, and
that's what's been lost in a lot of what we hear now with social media.
Yes.
You get one side, and then there's like groupthink.
Yeah.
Everybody who agrees with that jumps on the bandwagon, and then it becomes fact. Somehow it becomes fact when you haven't heard from the other side. So you get an unbalanced news, and a lot of people, young people especially, are getting their news from that.
Well, 80% of us, they say, get most of our news from social media, and our contacts, our clergy, our friends, and they're not getting the full story. All you have to do is go to the internet, and I don't care if you're left, right, or if you're from Pluto.
But there's one thing about this, and that is that curiosity is a big component of it. We're all very curious
That's something
people.
else. That we're all curious people.
And your encounter with, you're curious enough to go to Mae West's hotel or where she lived, her home, to find out to confirm that she's dead.
And almost get arrested sneaking in an elevator. And in some ways it can sound like a childish adventure, but you get the fever. And the news fever gets a hold of you.
Well, I am particularly interested in the Hillside Strangler story, which I will read in the book.
Yeah.
It is available, right?
KenDavisWriter.com.
There
Thank
you
you very
go.
much for an autographed copy. It's also on Amazon, but you can help pay for my children's education if you go to KenDavisWriter.com, and be happy to send you an autographed copy.
Is that Ken Davis, the English version or the Kazakhstan version?
That is both.
Okay, so it's available.
It's
either
also
way.
in Martian.
Yeah,
and,
it's translated
and,
in all
One of
forms.
my all-time favorite partners and producer, Ken Davis. Check
Thanks,
out this
Ken.
book. It's a great read. I read it on the plane and couldn't put it down.
Thank you
I
for coming.
appreciate that. You guys do a wonderful job, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Now we'll do the real interview.
Yes.